video for you guys. This one I'm calling it the woven gemstone necklace. It's a very simple pattern, but I wanted to show you guys that there's an easy correlation and a connection between bead weaving, which is a thread and needle, and actually getting a different look from basic stringing, which is just going to be using beading cable. A lot of our retail store customers, people that are coming into the shop, are actually coming in for our gemstones. We have tons of gemstones in our retail store and online available to you guys as well, and a lot of them are shopping for gemstones. I do a lot of videos doing bead weaving, but my first and natural love is for the gemstones. So I thought it'd be nice to do a video for you guys showing the simple kind of connection between the two. If you're not somebody that normally works with gemstone, here's an easy gift idea or something that you can do, a nice speedy project to do about a 24 to a 32-inch necklace. Also, on the adverse side, if you're somebody that does a lot with gemstones and you don't do anything with seed beads or anything with smaller beads, we're going to mix it up for you and try something new. Try to grab some seed beads and some thread and needle and work them in with your gemstones. So this is more of an idea rather than an exact project, but I wanted to kind of do those crossovers. I've done them before with some right angle weave and gemstones if you want to check out that video. If you need any of the materials, I'll put them on the left-hand side here with a little drop-down menu that links to the materials that we'll be using in this video. If you have an iPad or you're maybe on your phone or a tablet, sometimes those little pop-ups won't appear. In that case, underneath the video, there's a little box that says description and tells you exactly what the video is about. At the bottom of that, there's some down arrows, and you can hit the show more button with those down arrows, and it'll give you links to all of these online as well. You can also visit your local Potomac Bead Company store and gather any of the materials that are here. They will have them in stock. So, like I said, we started out mainly as a retail gemstone store. I did a ton with sterling silver and gemstones and linking and selling and doing all of that, and then proceeded into bead weaving. But I still, probably 90% of the time, have some sort of gemstone on. So what I'm going to teach you guys today is how to do a woven gemstone necklace. So it's very simple. Some of you already watching can say, oh, I know exactly how to do this. That's great. This is going to be a great tutorial for you to pass on to a friend, somebody that's new to beading, and somebody that wants to see kind of that mix of the bead weaving done in a very practical way. So I'm going to be using 8mm gemstones. I have a collection here of both faceted, which means cut gemstones, and smooth round gemstones. These are 8mm in size. I have some brown amazonite, some magnesite turquoise, which is a white stone that they dye, but it's way more affordable than like the Sleeping Beauty turquoise or the turquoise that is natural. It still has a great color. I have some faceted bronzite, some picture jasper that I'll be working with, and some carnelian faceted rounds. So all of these are size 8 to 8mm beads. So used to saying seed bead sizes. So these are 8mm gemstones, whether or not they're faceted or smooth round. I'm going to be working with both. I'm not going to have an exact pattern as I'm working, but I'll just be picking up these 8mm beads kind of at random. The thing that will have a pattern is what I'm going to wrap around the sides of the beads. For that, I have my 11-0 seed beads in my crystal aluminum silver color. So you can do a silver, you can do a gold. I would recommend doing something metallic in color. That way it'll match with a lot. This would also look pretty with a champagne or a blush color as well. So kind of other ideas. In addition to my seed beads, on my example piece here, I have 3mm check glass pearls. I have the 3mm glass pearls here because I love the look of pearls, and I'll be using those in a white color. In addition to that, I want a little shine added to the project. So to add a little shine, I have some 2x3mm crystal rondelles here in this kind of nice shadowy color. You could also do a golden color, or again, kind of keeping it neutrals, letting the gemstones really stand out. Whether or not you're pattern-wise, you want to do the crystals in the middle or the crystals on the outside, that's kind of up to you, and we'll kind of change the look a little bit. I'm going to be using pearls on the outside of my gemstones and then some crystals on the inside at the connection point. To string the whole thing, you can use size 4, 3 or 4 silk cording, or I am going to show you, for those of you that do a lot of bead weaving, how to do it with simple beading thread. This is Wildfire 0.006, or you can use 0.008 if you have it. This is actually a great use for the 0.008 because it is going to get a little bit heavier because of the seed beads. I also have a size 10 needle. If you are using the silk cording, the Griffin silk, it will already have a needle attached to it. In addition to my thread and my needle, I have some super new glue here, which is going to glue the end of the thread. And if you have it, you might want to have your thread zap or your thread burner nearby and handy. If you don't have a thread zap, a simple scissors will do, even a nail cutters, to cut the thread. Do not use your wire cutters that you're normally using in your bead stringing because it's not really going to work very well. So go ahead and use a pair of nice sharp scissors. In addition, I like to have a needle nose or a chain nose pliers handy. That way it's going to stop, or that way it's going to squash down on the end of the thread and make it easier for you to get your needle onto the thread. That way you're not super frustrated if this is one of your first times picking up a thread and needle. To get started, I'm going to cut apart my strands and make little piles of beads. And then I will show you exactly kind of how we're going to get into this and start creating. Again, you can choose to make anywhere between 24 and 32 inches. The idea is that this is a longer necklace that goes over your neck. However, because it is a simple pattern and more of an idea, you can easily make earrings or bracelets or shorter necklaces out of it. I'm not going to be using a clasp because I am going to just slip it over my head, and I kind of have it in all my favorite colors, getting ready to have a new necklace to wear. So go ahead and get out your beading thread and cut it off the spool with your thread cutter or with your scissors. And you want about 6 feet of your beading thread. It seems like a lot, but each bead is actually going to have 3 strands of thread going through it in order to complete the design. So for those of you unfamiliar with bead weaving, I have an 11/0 seed bead on my thread, and my thread has a little bit of a tail. So I have about 2 feet of that 7 feet as a tail, meaning the thread is through the needle. I'm going to take my 11/0 seed bead and drop it down to the bottom of my thread till I have about 3 inches of thread left. Taking my needle then, I'm going to sew back through that 11/0 seed bead 2 times towards the long piece of thread away from the tail. That's called a stop bead. The stop bead will eventually come off the project, and I always like to use a color of seed bead or smaller bead that is not in the project, so by accident I don't mistake it for something that is supposed to be there and in the project. So again, this is a very simple design. It's something to kind of bridge that gap between stringing and bead weaving. And what I'm going to do is start out by putting on a crystal, a seed bead, and a crystal, and letting that drop down the needle or the silk thread. After that, I'm going to pick up my first of my gemstone beads and drop that down next to the crystals. If you decide that you want to do this with a smaller bead, you're more than welcome to. It's just going to change your count on the side. My count on the sides of the bead are going to be 2 11s, and I should have mentioned these are Miyuki brand 11/0 seed beads. Then I'm going to do a pearl, and these are 3mm. If you don't have 3mm beads, you can also try to use an 8/0 or a 6/0 seed bead. One more 11/0 seed bead, and one more glass pearl. After the last pearl, we're going to repeat with 2 more of our seed beads. So the pattern is 2 11s, a 3mm, 1 11, a 3mm, and 2 of those. Drop it down next to your gemstone. Then just like we did with a stop bead, we're going to go back through that gemstone and go away, take our needle away from that tail. What that's going to do is pull the gemstone or those glass pearls and the seed beads right next to the gemstone. We're going to repeat the same thing on the other side, going with 2 11s, our pearl, 1 11, a pearl, and then 2 more 11s. Again, just like we did with the stop bead, we're going to go through that gemstone one more time, going from the tail, away from the tail and out. And you can see that's going to put those beads on the sides of the gemstone. After that, I repeat my pattern, crystal, 11, crystal. If you wanted to sit closer, you'll just go in right after that first crystal and start back up with your next gemstone. So again, then I'm going to grab another gemstone, put it onto my thread, give a nice tight yank to make sure that you have the threads on the sides of the previous gemstone nice and tight. Grab your pattern of your 11 L's and your pearls. And if you want to, you can change up the pattern so the pearl sits more to the peak of the side and play around with the design a little bit. Put on the rest of the seed beads. And so back through the gemstone with the needle going through and coming out towards the long piece of thread. Again, repeating that same thing on the other side. And if you want to, you can also kind of switch up the design and just do it on one side. And it'll kind of swing back and forth to the sides, just having those pearls going on one side. After we have that there, I'm going to go back through the gemstone and exit towards the long piece of thread. Give a nice tight pull and back to it. Crystal, 11 crystal, and let that drop down. When it comes to pattern and design, you can see with this one here, I used a little bit of a kind of mocha-ish color of the glass pearls with the carnelian. With this one that I'm making now, I think I'll wear it more often if I have that mixed gemstone look, which is really popular right now. So I'm going to go ahead and add my next gemstone and continue on with that easy pattern. And again, if you do want something different and you don't want the exact same pattern or the pearl on the side, just switch it up. Figure out exactly what sits nicely on the side of the bead and go from there. Some shapes of beads will sit nicer when they're on the side of a bead than others. So keep that in mind as you're thinking and kind of creating. Just try it out. You don't know unless you try. Once I have the side beads on, I'll go back through the carnelian and out towards the end. I'm going to repeat the same thing, going twice, and then adding the pearls. From here, it's continued on the exact same fashion throughout the necklace. What I will do, because I'm using beading thread, is as we get to the very end, I'm going to add another line of thread down the whole middle of the design. So I'll come back after I finish my 24 to 32 inches and show you guys how I'm going to connect tying a knot and then running the thread as a reinforcement through all the gemstones, crystals, and 11O seed beads. Once you have the length that you want on the necklace, you're going to go ahead to the starting side here and take off that stop bead. Usually you can do it with your fingers, just simply sliding it off. Sometimes you will have to back the thread out in the opposite direction. Now what I'm going to do is take the two ends and tie them together. Once I have those two ends tied securely together, I'm going to take the thread that I still have on the needle, and here's what I was saying, how I'm going to go ahead and reinforce the whole middle. So I have my thread and needle that is going to go through the whole middle of the piece, that being the crystals, seed bead, crystal, and gemstone. The needle will fill through the whole area then and reinforce so there's more than one thread going through the crystal and the 11-0 section. Because the gemstone necklace is heavy, you can, if you want to, also use stringing wire in the middle. After I reinforce here, it'll be fine to hold all of this weight. And even without the reinforcement, honestly, the wildfire is strong, it would be fine. So after you reinforce the whole central line, that's when you're going to come back to the starting point here, where the thread is. You're going to knot those two ends off as well. So now that I'm back to the original thread, I'm going to take the two ends and simply knot them together. After that, if you want to grab your super new glue, you can grab your glue and do a little dab right there on. The other thing that is helpful to do is to grab your thread burner and burn down the thread edges. Again, if you don't have a thread burner, I would suggest using the super new glue and then just trimming the ends nice and tight and small against the bead so you don't see any of the thread sticking out. Once you're done with your thread ends, your woven gemstone necklace is completed. And I hope it gives you guys ideas for those of you that are on one side or the other as far as working primarily with gemstones or those working all with seed beads. It gives you an idea of something different to do with your beads. Also, it gives you a completely different look of a project. You could also double stack this and kind of do some leather on the ends. Again, make it long, about 32 inches, and wear it multiple ways around your neck once or twice. And it's a fun way to kind of use a variety of gemstones or beads, whether or not you would want to do glass pearls, but throw in that bead weaving element just to give it a little bit more and a little bit extra as far as aesthetics when you're wearing your piece. Again, if you need any of the materials to do this woven gemstone necklace, you can go back to the beginning of the video to the little drop down. You can also check out your local bead store and your local Potomac Bead Company for the products as well. Underneath the video, as always, there's a little description box, and you can hit the show more on that description, and it'll give links to the different products that were used in this woven gemstone necklace as well. The other thing that you can do is stay connected with us by subscribing to this YouTube channel. You can also visit us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, as well as ask to become a member of our beading group for jewelry and for beading and jewelry making. Share ideas, share inspiration, get inspiration from the wonderful people that design on there, and really join an interactive, awesome group of people. As always, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and have fun if you kind of step out of your box and go along with creating this woven gemstone necklace.